everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and today I'm here to wrap up everything that I read in February. I didn't read as much in February as I was hoping to, but it is still a fair amount considering how short February is. And everything that I read I really enjoyed. So I'm excited to tell you about it on this very cozy and rainy day. The first book I was so excited to read was the third book in Mimi Matthews' Bells of London series, which is called The Lily of Ludgate Hill. This series is a Victorian romance series that focuses on 4 friends who are all accomplished equestrians, but who all have their own problems to overcome in the romantic area of their lives. Book 1 focuses on Evelyn, who is new to the group. Book 2 focuses on Julia and her marriage of convenience. Book 3 focuses on Anne, Lady Anne Deverell, who we have seen in the previous books. So now we get to get inside her head and inside her life. Anne and her mother are still living in mourning for her father, even though a very sufficient amount of time has passed. Years have passed. Her mother is fairly anxious, very much into spiritualism, and there's the constant looming threat of her cousin coming home from India and claiming his inheritance, which includes their house. Therefore, Anne has always felt that she needs to be the strong one, and is very much that. She is very strong, she takes no nonsense, but has rather a frenemies relationship with Felix. She and Felix were involved romantically many years before, and then a variety of things happened and nothing came of it. And they have very much a Benedict and Beatrice kind of relationship. Well, sort of. She loves to hate him and he loves to rile her up and tease her. However, Felix has problems of his own in his family that he is also trying to deal with and keep secret. And the two of them end up leaning on each other the further in they get. This was delightful. Based on where I had seen Anne and how she had seemed in the first 2 books, I honestly wasn't sure if I was going to like this one going in, but I absolutely loved it. It was truly fantastic, and I cannot wait for the final book, even though I am so sad that it will also be ending. But luckily there are many more Mimi Matthews books to come. Next, I read the next D.E. Stevenson book on my list, which was The Two Miss Abbotts. And this follows on directly from Miss Bunkle's book and Miss Bunkle Married. So I can't tell you too much, but we do follow Miss Bunkle and another woman named Mrs. Abbott and the village that they live in and all of the ins and outs during wartime. War has well and truly started, World War II, and so we're following these women and the women around them as they deal with village life among that fear and those restrictions. It was still cozy, and I loved getting to spend time with all of these women. The romance, I felt like, was a little bit odd. I was pleased with it, but it seemed very fast. And I still don't know how I feel about the ending. The ending seemed a bit ugh. It just kind of fell flat, which is such a shame considering how much I adored the first one. But luckily I have many more D.E. Stevensons to come, so I'm excited to see if any of these characters turn up in any of those books. Then for my nonfiction, I read Not the Type by Camilla Thurlow. Camilla Thurlow, pictured there, was a contestant on Love Island in 2017, which she did not seem the type to do. She was very introverted, very bookish, and just did not fit in with the typical crowd that tends to get onto Love Island. And then while she was there, the inevitable question of, so what do you do, came up. And she had, up until that point, been working for a nonprofit organization that found and diffused landmines and various unexploded bombs in third world countries, which she also did not seem the type to do. So this is her book explaining why she made those choices in her life, why she decided to push herself outside of her comfort zone, and how that has affected her since. I really enjoyed reading this. I really understood Camilla in a lot of ways, even though I don't think I would ever push myself outside my comfort zone in the same ways that she did. But I hope I can have a little bit of her courage in other ways. I really hope she writes more. I don't know what about. She has taken a big step back from the public eye, as she has every right to. Love Island did work out with her. I believe she is still with her partner Jamie. They have a child now, but it was really lovely to read. Then I also read Long Shadow, which is the last book I had to read in Olivia Atwater's Regency fairy tale series. And unfortunately, I can tell you almost nothing about it because it follows the Lord Sorcier's adopted daughter. So to tell you any more than that would completely spoil the entirety of the first book, Half a Soul. But this takes place with many of the same characters within the same universe, where Regency England exists as it always did, but with the fact that the Fae and fairies are very much real and are very much a dark and unpredictable presence. And they always wreak some sort of havoc that the Lord Sorcier and various other characters have to try and solve. This was really lovely, really delightful. It was a very quick read, and I believe Olivia Atwater has a new book out, but it's being advertised as Victorian, and yet follows on from these books, so I don't know if that's a mistake on the publisher's part or have many decades passed and we are picking up in the same world. But I'm now intrigued to find out. And the final book I finished in February was Shakespeare, The Man Who Pays the Rent by Judi Dench and Brendan O'Hay. I do have to give him some credit as well. I do not have my physical copy at the moment because my mother is currently borrowing it. She was desperate to read it as soon as I finished it. But this is actually a series of interviews that Brendan O'Hay, who is apparently an actor himself, did with Judi Dench and recorded. And he interviewed her about Shakespeare in general, and particularly all of the roles that she has ever played from Shakespeare. What that experience was like, what she thinks about all of the characters, about other characters, and what she's learned or what she went through when she was performing this play. The vast number of roles she has played and plays that she knows are absolutely insane. Although I was proud to be able to keep up with most of them. The only one I couldn't quite follow was Cymbeline. I did see Cymbeline many years ago with my ex-boyfriend at Yale. It wasn't a great production and I really didn't follow what was going on. But Judy's perspectives are absolutely delightful. They are hilarious. They made me want to immediately go and watch more Shakespeare. It is an absolute treasure of a book. Do pick it up whenever you can. I know it's out in the UK and I think it's being published here in the US in April. I almost forgot one book, which was Dear England by James Graham. I technically did not read this, but I did get to see it through National Theatre Live last week, and it was incredible. So I'm counting that as having read it, because since it is such a new play, there can't have been massive cuts or changes So like seeing a Shakespeare play, I'm counting this as having read Dear England. This is a very modern play that looks at the English national football team from the 2018 World Cup and the lead up to it to the past World Cup of 2022. And it follows their manager, Gareth Southgate, and all of the major players. And it's not only an unlikely heroes type of story, but it really looks at all of the players. It looks at Gareth and it looks at their psychology. Because that was one of the radical things that he did in 2018, was to bring in a psychologist to work with the team along with the various coaches and physios that they had. And the effect that that had, and watching these men grow as a team, deal with things in their personal lives, deal with fear and racism that they faced on the field. And it was just incredible. I loved every second of it. If you get a chance to see it, definitely see it. If not, do read it. And then, of course, I am still listening to The Last Chronicle of Barset by Anthony Trollope, and it is just wonderful. I could speed ahead and read a physical copy, but I'm having such a wonderful time listening to it that I really just want to continue with it that way. But it does mean that I will be reading it for quite a while to come because it is a monster of a book. But that's okay. I'm loving spending time with these characters. So those were all of the pieces that I read in February. Let me know down below if you have any further thoughts on any of them, or if you have recommendations for me based on these things that I loved. Until next time, be safe, be well, and happy reading. Bye everyone.